And joining me now to discuss what happens next is Tom Kneff, a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, and Ambrosio Rodriguez, a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor as well. Nice to see you both.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's break this down. More than 50 women have claimed that Bill Cosby assaulted them. This is the first attempt to criminally prosecute him. Let's start with you, Tom. What happens next?
Well, what's going to happen is his attorney will voluntarily surrender him. I mean, unless he's going to plan to run. But if you're Bill Cosby, there's probably not many places you can hide. So the best thing he can do is voluntary surrender. That's going to help him in front of the judge when he gets arraigned in terms of his attorney's bail application. You know, he'll be arraigned, he'll enter a plea of not guilty, and the case will go forward. You know, it's an interesting set of circumstances because, you know, a big stumbling block for a lot of other prosecutors throughout the country in investigating these mostly historic claims against Mr. Cosby has been the statute of limitations. Many states have a 3 or 5 year statute of limitations for these type of offenses. In this case, Pennsylvania has that 12-year statute of limitation. It looks like they're just inside the box on that.
Yeah, they had a deadline of January for that. So now, Ambrosio, you have worked as part of a sex crimes unit before, as I understand. The one charge that was filed is aggravated indecent assault, a felony of the first degree. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, look, in Pennsylvania, this law is basically a sexual assault crime or a type of rape. Rape is defined in many different ways within the penal code in Pennsylvania, like in most states. So I think the real issue in this case, or what it's going to come down to, is Pennsylvania statute or evidence code in allowing other alleged victims to come in and testify. Most states allow that to happen because with sex crimes, there's a sexual psychological profile that defendants have, a serial child molester, a serial rapist. And with someone as wealthy and with the resources and sophisticated as Bill Cosby, that's going to be the real issue, is whether or not the state will be allowed to bring in these other women to show a pattern so the jury makes their decision as to what happened between Bill Cosby and this woman, not as a he said, she said, but a this is what he has done for the last 30 years.
Yeah, and
that's what this case is going to come down to.
Okay, and Tom, you know, the victim in this case evidently reported this back in 2005. The county investigated it, but then they decided not to pursue it because of lack of evidence. So what has changed now?
Well, I think what has changed now is what Ambrosio was just alluding to, the idea that there is now propensity evidence. A couple of things your prosecutors are looking for in a sexual assault or rape case. One being a prompt outcry. In other words, it's harder to prove a case where the victim doesn't come forward within a reasonable time. And in fact, there's an instruction that the judge will give a jury that they can consider whether the victim complained of it in what they would consider a reasonable time. It's called a prompt outcry instruction. In this case, it appears like they do have a prompt outcry because she had made this complaint. You know, she's not coming forward now. She came forward you know, 10 or 12 years ago saying that this occurred. What's happened in the interim is now, you know, Bill Cosby has went from, you know, this all-American beloved figure to someone who is looked at as a possible, you know, a serial sexual predator. And there are all these other complainants that came forward, and I think what the prosecution is probably hoping that they can do is bring in evidence of these other victims. Generally, that's frowned upon because it's propensity evidence, and you're supposed to judge the defendant on the facts of this particular case. But again, there is this exception for sex cases where prosecutors can bring out prior conduct that's consistent with the allegations in the current case.
Okay, and as we mentioned, that arraignment hearing this afternoon. Thank you to Tom Kneff and Ambrosio Rodriguez for both of your insights on this. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.